I'm 85 years old, and I'm carrying secrets that are dying with me. Not dramatic ones, not affairs or crimes, just truths I never spoke out loud. Things I kept buried so long they've become part of my bones now. Here's what nobody warns you about. Silence doesn't protect you. It rots you from the inside. Some mornings I wake up already exhausted, not because my body is failing, but from the memories. You reach a certain age, and the past doesn't live behind you anymore. It sits in the room with you, waiting. And when you finally look at it, you realize your whole life wasn't shaped by what you said, but by everything you swallowed and kept quiet. People think silence is safe. I sure did. I thought holding things back made me steady, dependable, someone others could lean on without worrying I'd crack. But silence hardens over time. It starts as caution, becomes a habit, then a personality, then a whole life you barely recognize. There are things I never told anyone. Not my wife, not my children, not my closest friends. Some felt too small to bother with. Others felt too dangerous to touch. Looking back now, I see how each one quietly stole something from me. When I was young, in my 20s, early 30s, I believed life handed out chances in installments. Miss one now, catch the next one later. That belief followed me for decades, made me patient in all the wrong places, made me wait when I should have opened my mouth. I never told anyone how terrified I was of being ordinary. I grew up in a house where achievement was the only language anyone spoke. My father barely talked, but when he did, it was about work, about earning your place, about not wasting time on anything soft. I learned early that being enough meant producing something others could point at and admire. So when I landed my first steady job, I grabbed onto it like a drowning man. I told myself I loved the work. Told others I took pride in it. What I never admitted was how scared I was that without that job, there'd be nothing special left. No reason for anyone to stick around. That fear drove me to work longer hours than I needed to. Kept me saying yes when my body screamed no. Kept me choosing recognition over rest, applause over sleep. And I never told a soul that the drive everyone admired was really just panic wearing a suit. I never told my wife how lonely I felt, even when she was sitting right there beside me. This one still cuts. We were married 49 years. That's a long time to share walls with someone. From the outside, we looked solid. We didn't fight much, paid our bills on time, raised our kids without any disasters. But there were these long stretches where I felt invisible in my own home. Not because she ignored me, she didn't, but because I didn't know how to step forward into the light. Didn't know how to say, I need you to see me differently. Didn't know how to ask for softness without feeling like I was admitting weakness, so I stayed quiet. I listened. I fixed things around the house, I provided, and I let this distance grow between us that neither of us knew how to name. By the time I realized it had become permanent, it felt rude to bring it up. Like pointing out a crack in the wall after the whole house has already settled around it. She died before we ever talked about that loneliness. Now it's mine to carry alone. I never told my children how unsure I was about being their father. They think I was confident. They tell stories now about how calm I seemed, how I always had answers ready. The truth, I was guessing most of the time, guessing hard, and praying my uncertainty wouldn't leak through the cracks. There were nights I lay awake wondering if I was shaping them or damaging them, wondering if my emotional distance would feel like neglect someday when they looked back. I wanted to tell them I was doing my best, but I worried that admitting doubt would make them feel unsafe. So I played the role, the steady one. the man who didn't waver or flinch. And now they're grown, living their own lives, and there's this version of me they never met, a version who was scared, who needed reassurance too, who wanted to ask if he was doing it right. I never told my friends when I felt left behind. Friendships change quietly. One day, you're all laughing at the same jokes, living at the same speed. Then someone moves away. Someone gets promoted. Someone slows down. Nobody announces it's happening. There were times I felt like the last man standing in the same place, while everyone else kept climbing. Watching them build bigger lives, louder lives. I smiled at them. I congratulated them at dinner parties. Then I went home and wondered what I'd done wrong. Why I was still stuck. I didn't tell them I felt small. Didn't tell them I missed who we used to be together. Men aren't good at that kind of honesty. We crack jokes instead. We change the subject. We let friendships thin out rather than admit we're lonely and we're scared of disappearing. Now most of those men are gone. A few dead, a few just distant, living in other states, other versions of themselves. And there are conversations we'll never finish now. Words that died in my throat. I never told anyone about the moment I realized time doesn't slow down just because you are being decent. I used to believe that if you were patient enough, things would eventually come around. That if you waited your turn politely, life would notice and reward you. That belief kept me polite. It also kept me frozen. There was a promotion once I deserved but didn't push for because I didn't want to seem aggressive. A move I wanted to make but delayed because it would inconvenience others. A trip I postponed because I told myself there'd be a better time, a smarter time. That better time never showed up. What I learned too late is that time doesn't reward restraint. It doesn't pause and wait for you to feel ready. It just keeps moving. And if you don't step forward, it doesn't circle back to ask why you're still standing there. I never told anyone how much regret actually comes from delay, not failure. People assume regret comes from big, dramatic mistakes, affairs, betrayals, explosions that blow your life apart. But most regret is quiet. It's made of afternoons you chose productivity over presence, conversations you planned to have someday, apologies you rehearsed in your head but never actually delivered out loud. I regret the walks I didn't take with my wife because I told myself I was too tired. I regret the games I half-watched while thinking about work deadlines. I regret assuming people would always be there later to receive my better, more honest version. Later is a dangerous word. It sounds responsible. It sounds mature and thoughtful. But it's often just fear wearing a disguise. The turning point hit me when my doctor told me I had fewer years ahead than behind. He said it gently, like he was just offering friendly advice. I nodded, like I already knew. But something inside me shifted hard. I went home and sat in my car in the driveway longer than usual. Didn't turn off the engine. Just sat there listening to it idle, realizing how many times I'd done this exact same thing, thinking there was no rush, plenty of time. That was the first moment I truly understood that nothing was waiting for me anymore. No next phase, no big reinvention, just a narrowing path. I never told anyone how heavy that realization felt when it landed. After my wife passed, the house became too quiet. Not peaceful quiet, empty quiet. Rooms don't echo the same way when there's nobody left to hear you move through them. I started talking out loud sometimes, not to her ghost or anything like that, just to the air, saying things I'd never said when she was alive. Simple things, honest things, things that should have been easy, but somehow never were. That's when it hit me how many truths die with us, How many sentences never leave our mouths? How many versions of ourselves never get to exist outside our own heads because we're too scared or too proud or too tired? There are things you shouldn't tell just anyone. I get that. Not because they're shameful, but because most people don't know what to do with them. Your deepest fears, your quiet resentments, that sense of having missed something you can't even name properly. I understand now why people keep those things locked up tight, but I also see the cost. I'm living in the cost. What can't be fixed is the time, the timing, the order things happened in. You can't go back and speak with the voice you have now to the people you had then. You can't install wisdom into your younger self like some kind of software update. All you can do is sit with the understanding you've earned and decide whether to let it turn bitter or let it soften you. If you're hearing this and it's stirring something uncomfortable in your chest, I won't tell you what to do. I don't believe in telling people how to live their lives. But I will say this: don't assume silence is harmless. Don't assume there'll be a cleaner, easier moment coming later. Some truths don't age well in storage. They need to be spoken while they're still alive, while the people who need to hear them are still around to listen. I'm not angry anymore. That surprised me. I thought old age would sharpen me, make me bitter and hard. Instead, it made me softer, sadder, maybe, but also more forgiving than I ever expected to be. I forgive the younger man I was. He did what he knew how to do with the tools he had. He thought endurance was the same thing as strength. He thought keeping things locked inside made him reliable, made him a man worth depending on. He didn't know how much weight he was carrying, how much it would cost him later. Now, at 85 years old, I spend my days slowly. I drink my coffee and watch the light change on the kitchen wall. I think about all the things I never said, and I let them be what they are. I don't fight them anymore. If right now you need to say what's slipping away in your life, just write in the comments. Later. And if in this moment you're gathering the courage to tell someone something you haven't said in years, write today. Maybe that's enough for right now. Maybe that's the beginning. Because here's the truth I learned too late. The words you don't say don't disappear. They accumulate. They harden. They become walls between you and the people you love. And when you're finally ready to speak, when you finally have the courage, when you finally understand how important it was, maybe it's too late. Don't let it be too late for you. Don't let your truths die unspoken. Don't let your life become a collection of should-haves and wish-I-hads. Because in the end, what hurts most isn't the things we said. It's the things we never said, the conversations we never had, the love we never expressed, the forgiveness we never offered, the vulnerability we never showed. I'm 85 years old, and if I could go back, I wouldn't change the big decisions. I'd change the small silences, the moments I chose to stay quiet when I should have spoken, the times I swallowed my words when I should have let them out. Because those small silences, accumulated over a lifetime, become the biggest silence of all. The silence of a life not fully lived, of a heart not fully shared, of a soul not fully known. Don't let that be your silence. Speak now, while you still can, while the people you love can still hear, because tomorrow isn't promised, and later might never come. This is all I have to say. And maybe, if you're truly listening, it's all you need to hear.